All right. All right, it's about 10:30, and I decided I'd try and get a little painting done today. It's been a hectic day. I'm going to start off. This is a Mordian Iron Guard. He's been primered white with Vallejo Surface Primer. And as I've said in other videos, I've literally got about 80 or so of them, not counting heavy weapons. Plus a few assorted. There's a couple priests in there, Inquisition or Inquisitors examples, or etc. So I'm going to paint this guy, and I'm going to talk a little bit about the D&D game last night, and just basically hang out a little bit. So I'm painting my Mordians to look very much like U.S. Marines. Hey, somebody's watching. Oh. Anyway, so they're going to look like U.S. Marines when they're done. So I'm getting ready to paint one. So let me see. The first thing I'm going to need is a dark blue, which is in my paint container. It's going to have a dark blue coat and hat with white pants with the stripe down the side of the pants. And then, of course, the black boots and gear. You spelled colors like you're from England. So here we go. What do we got? No, that's electric blue. We do not want electric blue. Even though electric blue might look pretty good, it'd be very bright. Let me look in my paint rack to make sure I haven't already. I thought it was brown after Labor Day. And there's Hostile. Yeah, I'm pretty sure you're not supposed to wear brown after Labor Day. I could be wrong, though. So the new Space Marine and Necron Codex will be available for pre-order. Here we go, Templar Blue. On Saturday, I've already talked to my local Coliseum Comics. I told them to put one of each away. All right. So this Templar Blue is a Reaper color. It's basically a navy blue, being fake English is my code. So let's get just a dab of it out there. Right. There's a couple of other figures that are going to be available for pre-order, including the what is he? The Silent King. But I didn't want to pre-order that because he's like 150 bucks. So, which means that guy is more expensive than an Orc Stompa. But also supposedly one of the most insanely powerful models in the game. So, Bob Ross. I love Bob Ross. I don't know if I could be friends with somebody who didn't like Bob Ross. Right? Using my #1 round brush that I bought at the Hobby Lobby. Happy little trees. They're also coming out with like data cards, like a pack of data cards, but I didn't pre-order them because they want $25 for them, and that seems like, I mean, the codexes are already $50 a piece. So yeah, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. They've seriously been jacking prices up. So Magic the Gathering has announced that they'll be producing the Walking Dead cards for use with Magic the Gathering, though. One of them that they spoiled was Negan the Cold Hearted, and the other one that they spoiled was Michonne. And they will be usable for Type 2 tournaments. I should probably get in contact with. Yeah, you're not wrong. I was saying I should probably get in contact with J Man and ask what he knows about it since he's still playing Magic a lot. But yeah, it seemed like a really weird combination of franchises. They're also in the very near future coming out with the Magic the Gathering set that will be based on the Forgotten Realms D&D setting. So there's that too. Hello, Ghost. It's your boy. No, no, it don't make any sense. But they both have power, toughness, whatever. So you know, it's what really surprised a lot of people is these are black border cards, which means they are going to be tournament legal, Type 2 tourney legal. Because Magic has done this before. I agree. And honestly, I didn't even know people were still watching The Walking Dead. Not to be mean, but I got up to a few seasons past that. But, of course, I have a hard time staying interested in anything. For, I mean, if it's more than a couple seasons, whatever. And the shows I actually do want to see haven't come out with a new season in forever. I'm still waiting for The Expanse. Okay. So, let's see. This is my, well, it's model color. Vallejo German gray, but it's actually a really dark gray. So I like to use this instead of black, and then you can shade it with black ink, and I suppose you could just highlight it the other way too, but whatever. So gonna do his boots and his rifle. Yeah, that's exactly it. And then it makes the figure look much more realistic, in theory. There are a few things that a good wash doesn't fix on a figure. True. My goal needs to be actually painting figures. It'd be nice to get an army painted one day. Yeah. But I'm just block painting this guy right this second. I'll have to decide if he's wearing his white gloves or not. Yeah, first step, pick which army. Ha ha ha, but that's true. First step, pick an army. Because right now I'm sitting here talking to you. I'm painting a Mordian when I have a Steel Legion army, a Space Marine army, a Chaos army, a Necron army, and a bunch of D&D figures I probably should be painting, because this IG army is kind of low down on my priority list, but I still want to get one done. Call it a test model. Block painting is when you go in and you, as carefully as you can, paint each section. Like you paint all of the gun, whatever color it's going to be. So right now, this is basically block painting. The jacket's its color, the hat's its basic color, the rifle's its color, the gun is going to be its color. So pretty much you go through and you paint each section of the miniature, whatever color it's going to be, and then you go back and you do highlights and shading. Or if you don't want to bother with highlights, what a lot of people do just to get an army that looks good on a table is you block paint it, you give it a wash, you seal it, done. Highlighting really is an option. It is not required at all in this hobby, but the pro painters on YouTube and other channels, they'll have you believe that, honestly, if somebody really does a great job neatly doing block painting and then they use shading correctly on the table, it looks just as good as the other guy who spent an hour and a half highlighting every section. But if you're trying to win a miniature painting contest, you want to go all out. But for painting an army, most of the time you do your block painting and a good shade, and it's ready to rock, and it'll look good. That's one of the good things about painting the Necrons, because they get painted black first and then dry brush the darker metal. They shade themselves. So in that way, you're starting from a black and you're highlighting up, or you could start from metal and shade down. You end up with the same basic outcome. So now we've got the rifle done, we've got his belt and ammo pack done, which they're going to be black. Which I'm not a super neat painter because my hands shake so much, but if you're careful, you can knock it out and it'll look pretty good. Or very good even. See this guy. I think if I just hammer this guy out, I can probably paint a figure to a decent tabletop quality in about 20 minutes. Right now it's going a little slower because I'm talking a lot, but that's the whole point of doing this. So my last video was me making a city map using Inkarnate. Okay. Right. Now the hardest colors to paint are white and yellow, in my opinion. So. Time Lord. So, if the Time Lord is still watching, what do you think about Henry Cavill being the new James Bond? I just saw an article on Facebook saying it is Henry Cavill. And according to the interview, he was actually interviewed and they asked him what he thought about being picked to be the new James Bond. He said it was very exciting. Henry Cavill is the guy that played Superman and The Witcher. Well, exciting for him. I thought he was American though, so that's kind of crazy. Well, no, I guess it's not. Well, actually, I don't want to say that. Is this the first time they got an American? Hmm. Hmm. I heard a lot of people were trying to get it to be Idris Alba would be the new James Bond. There was a push for that for a while. All right. I need to figure out what color to paint his on his shoulders. Well, it depends which Bond you like. You have to remember that after Sean Connery, who isn't even English, he's Scottish, you had Roger Moore, and Roger Moore was a pretty man. And Roger Moore was James Bond for quite a while, too. And then you went through some James Bonds really quick that I don't think anyone knew or cared about. You had, what's his name, Pierce Brosnan, who I believe is Irish. He's a pretty man, too. Right. Well, Sean Connery is most people's first experience, I think. Maybe, I don't know. But he was the guy for so long. And he was a pretty guy when he was young. So the epaulets on his shoulders. What color do I paint those? I don't know. Yeah, I was thinking about yellow, but now I'm painting his hands. His gloves are going to be white because the Marine dress uniform, they wear white gloves. Or should I do his gloves flesh colored? What do you think? Flesh colored or white on his for his hands? Gloves or no gloves? I guess is what I'm asking. Right there, that's basically the block paint going on right now. You and this Labor Day joke. Well, I want them to be fancy. I mean, the lore of the Mordians is they're kind of fancy guys. Eat the horse after. So you want gloves. These are fancy guys. The Mordians. They're kind of like if I remember the lore correctly, they kind of um, look down on other Imperial Guard units. They consider themselves to be just better than other Guard units for the most part, and their ability in game is one, they have very good discipline, but they form firing lines. So the more of them you stick close together, at least if I remember correctly, the better they actually are. You put them in a firing line. So I'm going to grab some skin color. What do we see? What do you think? That's a pretty good skin color. I mean, I want them to be. A lot of times I'll go with something like that, but that seems way too guys. Right. Okay, hostile. Okay. Yeah. Well, plus these guys are out in the sun. I mean, another part of the lore is they drill just nonstop, which is why they're so good. Is they just train all the time. So I hate these metal figures, though. I'm not gonna lie. I would much prefer to be. Right, right. That sounds correct. That does sound correct. For some reason, I put this stream down as me just chatting and painting some figures, but it says I'm making a map. So let's see. Okay, done. Okay, now it changed. Because I saw a couple people dropped in and dropped out, and I'm going to choose to believe it was because they were here to see some mat making. No, you can't get these guys in plastic. They stopped making them years and years ago. These they don't make these guys at all. Now, if Games Workshop was smart, they would come out with a, again, just my opinion. I'm thinking maybe the shoulder pads red. The epaulets red to match the red stripe running down their legs. The piping on their pants. Plus, that'd be red, white, and blue. America, or the Confederacy, or France, or Russia. Half the flags on the planet use red. Well, that is two primary colors, so. Right. So, I need to look in my big box of paint and grab my matte white. For some reason, I know a little bit about 40K. Well, it's good. It's good to know a little bit about things. Let's see. Hueso. That's ivory, but that actually could be a really good color. Sit down and paint one or two of these per night, and who knows, in a year, I'll have a whole army painted. I complain, but my 40K army is almost painted, really. I built the army the other day, and there's only 46 models in it, and if I were to sit down for a good 2 days and just finish off some details, they'd be done. Yeah, the purple and gold one. And I'm going to be using this for the chapter badge. So that'll be their chapter badge, that sunburst. It is a sunburst. I actually got a bunch of those from those are from Alexander the Great. That's the symbol he used on his pikemen, his phalanxes. So let's go here and do this. So I need to paint these pants, pantalones. Yeah, I keep going back and forth on that because it's a homemade chapter, and I can't make my mind up whether I want them to be generic Space Marines or to be successor chapter from the Blood Angels. And according to the reviews, or the previews, not reviews, in the new Space Marine Codex, you could also you can build your own chapter, and you can actually pick chapter abilities so that you can have a custom chapter, which could be really cool, I think. So we got to paint those gloves. And I got a little bit of paint on his rifle, not a big deal though. Right? Well, they need to do something with the guard because, I mean, the Cadians were never great. The strong selling point to the Cadian models is they were cheap and available. But that's really it. Of all the guards that you can buy, they are the least interesting. They're just not very interesting at all. You know, whereas a lot of these other guard regiments are very cool looking with cooler history and, be it the Talarn Desert Raiders or the Praetorians. I really wish they would come out with the parts to make the Janissaries. I would love that. They're the ones that wear the silver mask of the saint with the teardrop, and they wear basically like a dove gray uniform. That would be so cool. And that's what they do though, is they draw this amazing art of all these units, and then they never release the units. And then you got some guy online, he's like, hey, I built these units and this is how I did it. But if you try to accrue all the parts and bits to make the unit the way this guy made the unit, it's going to cost you like $10 per figure. And when you're playing guard, you need about 100 figures. So it's kind of like how they want $80 for a 10-man squad of Death Korps of Krieg. That's insane. Games Workshop should just go ahead and make plastic Death Korps of Krieg and sell them. They could sell them for $40 for 10, and everybody and their uncle would buy a Death Korps of Krieg army. They'd run nuts with it. But right now, they priced themselves even out of my range. Because there is an amount I won't pay for 40K stuff. And $8 a figure when you need 100 figures, that's not going to happen. That's just too much. That's my breaking point, $8 a figure. If you're playing Space Marines, okay, so Terminators might cost $10 a figure for a box, right? But because a box of 5 is like $50 or whatever, so yeah, you're looking at $10 a figure, but you need 20. So it's not that big of a deal. A couple $100. You got all the Terminators you're ever going to use. And the kits, of course, come with all the different parts and everything that you would ever need. So yeah, they're expensive per unit, but it works out. But when you're dealing with the guard, man, you cannot price guard that high because no one can afford them. All right, so what I'll do is I'm going to start with this dark red, this crimson, or scarlet, and then I'll go over it with a blood red. That should give us the look we're trying to get. Plus, I just love this crimson. Cover's good, looks good. It's just a good color. What do you think? These guys got like heavy collars on their jackets. Should I paint those collars, or they're not collars, sleeves, cuffs? Should I paint the cuffs red to match the epaulets and the piping on the pants? Right, right. Everyone loves the Death Korps of Krieg. They look cool, their story's cool. Right. Well, I'm talking about just around the cuff, and then the shoulder, and then the piping on the pants. We'll see. When I'm going to do the first part I already thought I would do, and then I'll look at it and we'll think about it. That's a good idea. That is a good idea. So there's that. And then there's going to be some metal added too. Right. The eagle on the front of his hat will be gold, and I'll pick out the buttons on his jacket with gold. Okay. Now to grab my good brush, my Citadel layer brush. I've had this bad boy forever. This is like the Black Arrow. It's never failed me. And it's the only Citadel brush I've ever bought that has not just destroyed itself. So I guess every now and then you get lucky. Because every other Citadel brush I've ever bought has just died. But this one, for some reason, just keeps chunking right along. Okay. Just keeps cruising right along. You know what I need to do? I mean, I paid for it. Might as well use it. Got my little grippy thing so that I don't touch the figure. Especially with these metal figures, you touch them and you can rub the paint right off. Primered or no. Neaten that up a bit. Now let's go over here and look. Okay. All right, so I know the lighting sucks. I probably need to set up another light source in here. But so there's the piping on his pants in the dark red. It'll get a light red over it, and then on the epaulets. So now the question is, should he get it on the cuffs as well? Yeah. Well, I just got the camera to come with this computer. And the computer was a gift, so I don't want to complain. Boom. Clean it off a little bit. I wonder if there might be some settings in the computer that I can maybe we'll see. I mean, I wouldn't even know where to start with this. I mean, I wouldn't even know what camera to use, mics, or any of that. Okay, that said, let's go ahead and grab I want a more vivid red. Nope, that's contrast paint. I need to organize my workspace because it's a mess. And if people could see how disorganized I were, they would probably laugh and maybe want to send me help. So let's see what we got here. We've got pure red. Hey, Valexian, I haven't seen you in a little while. How are you, sir? Oh, it looked better. Yeah, yeah. Yeah, I mean, I'm just on this is just a Dell laptop, so um, about right now we're talking about D&D 40K figures and me painting a 40K figure and all kinds of stuff like that. Last night was my old school essentials game, and the group finally for the most part, cleared out the Karlov estates. They battled a Voidion, which is a kind of a Slavic vampire. And so we'll see what they do next. And I don't know if you follow 40K at all, but I'm currently painting an out of print, old school Mordian Iron Guard, and the color scheme I chose is one very similar to the U.S. Marine Corps. Not identical, but similar. And no, I was not a Marine. I was Army. But I do love the Marine uniform. They got the nicest uniform in the business. Nice, bashing my head against the wall. Same here. Same here. I have to, I mean, not to get super personal, but I see a therapist once a week, which is secondary to PTSD from being a firefighter and depression. And we're still doing it over the phone. And in a way, it's very convenient because I never have to leave my house. But the fact that I never have to leave my house is kind of, I guess, defeats the whole purpose because I have a real issue with never wanting to go anywhere and being very withdrawn. And so never leaving my house is kind of the worst thing for me. But, you know, coronavirus, and my state's getting its ass kind of whipped right now, so I don't blame them for being careful, but but I feel you. I know what you're saying. Okay. All right, so we've got okay. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we'll see. We'll see. I've because of all the differences a lot of my friends have on all this. Yeah, I think hostile might be right. I think it will soon. I hope. I hope because I really miss just being able to run up to the comic shop and hang out. And I mean, I can still do that because my comic shop is open, but you gotta wear masks and stuff. And a lot of people are still being very cautious, and good for them. Um, so I'm missing some of my gamer buddies because they're staying locked down. All right, so a little bit of neatening up near the belt there. I need to throw some metallics on. And then we need to make up our mind about those cuffs. Ladies and gentlemen of the 40K variety, well, anybody. That means I need to grab my... Yeah, coronavirus killed Adventures League in our area. It killed Friday Night Magic in our area. Pretty much any sort of organized gaming we had in Orlando died. And so a lot of people, it's like really hurting new D&D players whose only way of playing the game is to get together with friends on, you know, at the Adventure League. Uh, so that kind of sucks. Okay, so neaten that up. No, I did not hear that, and I cannot imagine why they would. I mean, The Temple of Elemental Evil, that's, I mean, come on, man. No, I know, I no, no. But I'll be honest with you. Since I've started streaming and posting YouTube videos, I have not been on Twitter more than maybe 5-10 minutes a day, and I've been 100% happier. I log on, I check my notifications, I keep in touch with a couple of my Twitter friends, and then I roll out because some of the stuff going on Twitter is just it'll put you in a really bad mood if you listen to some of these people. So I'm just not doing it. But okay, Temple of Elemental Evil though. I mean, Gygax did that back in the '80s. It's been around forever. And Sword Coast. I mean, how do you get rid of Sword Coast and still play in the realms? I mean, I I can't imagine. I don't even know. I mean, I hope it's because of rules and not because somebody got offended by something. Who knows anymore what people are getting offended by? It seems like people are getting offended by everything. So I need a good gold color. And Vola's Guide to Monsters. I have that book out in the garage. I was at one of our local stores up in Orlando the other day. My wife was super sweet, and she took me out and she bought me a couple paints. And I was actually trying to trade in my 5e books, and the guy wouldn't take them. I was like, I don't even want money, man. I'll take store trade. I'll take whatever. I'm never going to use these things again. And but he's like, no, sorry, man, not in this economy. So let's give this guy. I don't know. I mean, it's a good adventure. I've ran it like 2 or 3 times in my life. I like the video game that Troika came out with. If you can still find it, it's pretty cool. And I actually beat it about a couple weeks ago. I play it about once a year. And I actually nerfed myself in the game. Like I had all kinds of weird character combinations that were not optimal. I had a barbarian and a paladin and a dual classed fighter mage that was like level 5 fighter, level 5 mage. And the cleric got killed. So when I raised her from the dead, she never leveled past 9 for some reason. I don't know if that is a bug, but all right, let's carefully do this eagle in the front of his hat. So, but even with playing suboptimal characters, I managed to beat it, so I was pretty happy about that. All right, and we want to put some gold on his dagger. On the hilt of the dagger and the pommel. Because these guys are fancy lads. If I were painting my Steel Legion, all of this stuff would be metal or brass, but these guys are Mordians. So it's probably not actually gold, but these guys shine that stuff up every day. Again, part of the lore. They keep their kit immaculate. Yeah, Temple of Elemental Evil, the video game, may be one of the best D&D video games ever made. And it uses the 3rd edition rule set, so a lot of people love that. A lot of people love that rule set. There's a couple. I haven't played the 4th edition games. And I tried to load up. This computer came with Neverwinter Nights on it, and I tried to load it up and play it the other day, and it wouldn't work. So I also wanted to stream myself playing Pool of Radiance, and for some reason I can't figure out how to make it stream. because every time I get the game going and then I turn the stream on, the game minimizes and then I can't get it to maximize again. So again, I'm back to the neatening up stage because, as usual, when I went in there to do some details, I made a couple of little boo boos. Or as my favorite painter in the world would say, I made a couple of happy little mistakes, but it's no problem. I'm definitely going to have to, now I'm curious as hell after I get done streaming and hanging out. Yeah, I'm definitely going to have to look up and see why this is a thing. I'm hoping it's not something silly like the whole BS with orcs, you know. You can't play orcs anymore because they're not evil, or maybe they are evil, or whatever crazy thing is going on with these people. But yeah, Genesee have always been. I mean, I don't generally do a lot of non-standard races in my game, but the elemental races I've always thought were cool. Maybe not even as player characters, but as somebody who really loves the idea of the city of brass and places like that, I could see allowing those. Those are one I'd probably allow before I would allow a drow or something. And but for Temple of Elemental Evil to be banned from Adventures League, that is mind blowing to me. I just honestly, I'm just sitting here like, I used to run Adventures League too before the coof and all that. I would go down to our local COC in Orlando and run. That was fourth edition. I ran, and yeah, but yeah, that's pretty amazing to me. But I don't doubt anything anymore from Wizards of the Coast. I heard somebody say this, and they're 100% right. Wizards of the Coast is a company that has two of the greatest games ever made, Magic the Gathering and Dungeons and Dragons, and is somehow ran by complete morons. It's like those games remain profitable in spite of the decisions the management makes, you know? Because a lot of people are going by Magic or D&D no matter what Wizards of the Coast does. As long as the book says Magic or the deck of cards has, or what I'm saying, D&D, or the pack of cards says MTG across it, some people are just going to buy it. That's just all there is to it. And until very recently, people. Yeah, but you don't. I don't. Okay. Yes, possibly, but there's got to be another way. Well, okay, hold on though. I mean, that's on the DM though. That's on the DM who says you can do that. Uh, maybe the DM involved should be like, no, you're not doing that. Maybe for some reason. I hope he's got good reason, but the DM could be like, no, you can't do that. But a lot of that has to do with their new, and this is a not Mike Merle's. Perkins started this, and the other one, Andrews or whatever. The whole never say no. When the players when the player's asked to do something, never say no, always say yes, or and I need to stop saying uh, and that's not good. Sometimes you have to tell a player no. There you go too. The lock is stronger. You put the ice in there, and the ice just breaks and crumbles. Sometimes you have to tell a player what they are doing will not work. I remember, and Hostile was there for this because he's gamed with me for years. When one of the players brought the third edition fighter handbook to our game and then tried to argue that his character, because there's a feat in there that allows you to dual wield great weapons, that his character should be allowed to dual wield great weapons. Yeah, Time Lord. Yeah, they spell color wrong too. They spell it with a U. The English way. Well, I guess it's not wrong, really. They probably invented the word. Okay. All right. double checking, going around. No wash on him yet. None really necessary currently. I got one more paint to put on, and then we have to make our big decision, which is not really a big decision. Sire. Well, I do like the idea of being nobility, but well, it is more fancy. But if I was nobility, I would demand to be called Czar. Right. Well, I'm going to do the buckles on their boots in metal. Got some shiny buckles on their boots. Let's go ahead and do that. That's a detail that's not at all necessary, and no one will ever see it unless they're actually looking at the figure really closely, but I figured I'll do it anyway. One more there. So again, because my camera sucks, I doubt you can see the, well, no, you can see him a little bit on there. So he's got the buckles on his boots. He's got his white trim around the hat. He's got the gold eagle on the front, the red piping, the white gloves. The big question is, cuffs of the jacket, red or do I leave them blue? I think both are good, honestly. Oh, the Gloomwalker assassin build. Right. All right. I live to please. I was talking to my D&D group about that build, and we were laughing about what were we talking about? Oh, I was saying make a dwarf or something with infravision, ranger, gloomwalker, assassin, and just roam the underdark, beating the snot out of everything. You know. All right. So, so I'm calling this guy done. I'm gonna do his face with a little flesh wash, since that's a focus area. People tend to look at faces. And then after that, he is done, done, done. So, well, there you go. I mean, I agree with Adventure League compliant when I run Adventure League. When I run my home game, then I throw the rules out, you know, and it really just depends on how well will a character concept fit in with the campaign we're running. A character like you're mentioning, if I were running 5e, I would allow it. Absolutely, I think it sounds fun. Uh, you can't really build a character like that in basic expert, what I'm playing now. But if I were running 5e, I'd allow that in my game. Of course, I also wouldn't have gotten rid of Temple of Elemental Evil or Bolos or Sword Coast either. You know, I just run with it, and I'm not saying that as if I'm some kind of great DM. I'm just some of the rule. I think a lot of people, especially DMs, forget. And again, this goes back to Perkins and that other goofball whose name always eludes me. Um, People forget that the game is their game and that they literally can do or not do whatever they want. And well, anything, if everyone at your table is good with it, you go nuts. I mean, of course, you want everybody to be good with it. You don't want like I would never condone players abusing one another. The ice key wouldn't work, and for the same reasons Val said, because I feel like the ice is not strong enough to actually turn the tumblers of a big key, and it would break. But I'd let them try it all day long. It's 11:30 at night, and my wife is vacuuming. Are you okay in there, babe? What's going on? At 11 at night? At 11:30? Okay. You're the boss. Vacuum away. Oh, you're already done? Oh, okay. I was just wondering. I heard you in there rattling about. I'm in here recording a little bit of a video talking about D&D.
I'm sorry, babe.
You don't have to apologize. Whatever you're doing is more important than what I'm doing. I'm talking about a game. You're making the house nicer. So, so yeah, you do you. Right, right. But you know what else would work on a lock? A sledgehammer. If it's a padlock, maybe. You know, if it's a small chest, hit it with a freaking axe. Of course, you run a risk. It could be full of potions and you can load yourself up, but I sunk the yeah, well, the hammer is noisy. But I got that beat. Oh, you make sure you have a wizard in your adventuring group. Knock. Book. There you go. As a matter of fact, when the last time I played through Temple of Elemental Evil, my mage almost every second level spell he had memorized was knock the whole game. Because I didn't really have a thief in the group, yeah, or thief, and so I just used knock to get through all the locks, and that worked out for me pretty well. Okay. I like this guy. I'm going to need to base him up. I have to get a better picture and post him to the miniatures boards I'm on and see what people think about it. So, I've always been a huge fan of the concept of the dwarf ranger. Honestly, something about a tunnel runner. I've just always thought that was such a neat, like, make a dwarf, make a ranger, make all of the ranger abilities um, Underdark specific. So his tracking abilities and all that are more based around being in the Underdark. And I just think that's such a cool idea. Okay. The advantage of a dwarf over a wood elf, not really anything in 5e, especially now with the way they do ability bonuses and all that. The main advantage of a dwarf in other editions of D&D, like 3rd edition, would have been their increased constitution, obviously. They get bonuses to saves versus poison and I think disease maybe. Like I know in basic D&D, your average dwarf gets a bonus based on his constitution, and they give a bonus to their constitution um, to like 3 different saving throws. So a dwarf with a 17 or 18 con gets a +4 bonus to poison, disease, and like spells. In addition to that, dwarves have infravision, whereas in this particular version of the game, elves have low light. So an elf can see really good in natural darkness under the sky, but they don't see very good at all underground, whereas a dwarf does. But above ground, the dwarf's eyesight in the dark is actually no better than the elf. Maybe the elves might even be better. So that's kind of the thing. The dwarf is going to have a higher con on average, and again, this is old school D&D where races had attribute bonuses and penalties, and the dwarf is also going to they get a lot of dwarf abilities that are just going to be awesome for scouting about in the Underdark. The ability to sense new construction, the ability to detect slopes, the ability to gauge their depth underground. And then when you combine that, you make the dwarf a ranger, and they get all of the. Yeah, they are slower. They are slower, but you combine that with your actual ranger abilities, tracking and whatnot, and you end up with, I think, a really. I'm not saying a good character. Your character might beat my character's ass. I'm just saying I think a neat character, a very interesting character, and and that's why I make most of my characters, honestly. Like the last character I've played was just a human witch hunter, and because we were playing Warhammer, and I spent a lot of my XP actually learning how to read and write because my character did not begin the game with the ability to read and write. He was not literate. And it cost Warhammer's skill-based game, so it cost me basically 2 adventure sessions worth of XP for my character to be able to read and write. A lot of, like, a power gamer wouldn't have done that. It didn't really aid my character at all. I was already, running around with a brace of pistols and my rapier and main gouch and, dueling and killing witches and whatever. So, but I really wanted my character to know how to read and write. Right. Now I did see, speaking about D&D related stuff. Yeah, sure, timeline. That they're going to be releasing Spelljammer again, which is super interesting to me because honestly, I was around in the early 90s when Spelljammer was originally released, and it was not very popular. um, Spelljammer is basically, okay, I'm concentrating for a minute there. All right, the basic deal with Spelljammer is you have these things called Spelljammers, and a Spelljammer is pretty much a warp drive, and you can build a starship with this anvil, spell anvil, or whatever it's called, and you sacrifice magic or magic items to the anvil, and that provides power to journey from one sphere, they call it, to another. And by spheres, these are worlds. So Spelljammer was initially set in Forgotten Realms around Toril. So if you were playing a Spelljammer campaign, you could have a Spelljammer ship, and all the different races had ships, and they introduced new races like the Gif and the Neogi, and the Drow had their spider ships and all that. And so you could travel from one world to the next. If you owned a Spelljammer, you could leave Toril, enter space, and then spelljam your way to Oerth, which is Greyhawk, or what is it? That is a Dark Sun, and in addition to that, there were actual monsters and civilizations and things in the space between the worlds that you could interact with. Neogi slavers and the militant Gif, and you had spacebound dwarves that hollowed out massive asteroids and made these giant citadels that would be floating around, and the dwarves were literally mining metals from the asteroids, and it used it used magic. Basically, it had another magic device that kept an atmosphere around the ship, and every ship would have an atmosphere around it, and in that way, when two ships would ram each other or something, the atmospheres would merge, and that would allow you to jump back and forth. And yeah, it's sci-fi magic. So you could do some Errol Flynn kind of swinging from the ropes from one ship to the next, and also Spelljammer introduced gunpowder weapons as kind of a main thing in the setting. Some of the races had like wheel lock cannons and or not cannons, wheel lock pistols. The Gif especially, they're like humanoid hippo men, and they were known for carrying wheel lock pistols, and you would have cannons and whatnot. So yeah, so Spelljammer may come back, but like I said, I remember when Spelljammer came out in the early '90s. It was the early '90s. I was still in the army, and it wasn't that big of a thing. No one really liked it. You know, most of your traditional D&D players took one look at that and was like, no, thank you. You know, it is, of course, we didn't have Twitter and social media back then so that people could complain about it the way they do now about every darn thing. And I did buy the box set because I am a, back then I was a consumer of games and I pretty much bought anything TSR put out. And that's just a fact. I'm kind of that way to a degree with Warhammer now. But I don't know if you like that sort of thing. And you always got these people, especially on Twitter, you've got this group of people who are constantly agitating, hey, we want Spelljammer. And it's like, okay, so Wizards is going to put Spelljammer out, and good for Wizards. But is it going to be popular? Probably not. So here is what we have done. I did a little inking on his fingers. I might touch them up just a little bit. But I did a little ink in there so that you could actually see the detail between the gloves. And yeah, and now I'm just going to put a, for the base of this guy, I've got some texture paint that looks like concrete. So I'll go ahead and base him on either concrete or mud. The wife bought me this. It's a textured astro granite, so it's gray. Good night, Hostile. And and yeah, and he's done. But and then I'll take a good picture of him with my actual camera and I'll post that on the 40K miniature boards that I'm on. Our local game boards. But I like him. I like him. I think he looks good. Now, 79 more to go. Not counting heavy weapons teams. Oof. But it's like what's the other one? They released Theros and they released Ravnica, and everyone gets excited about them. When they very first come out, you hear all these people, they're like, oh yeah, super excited and can't wait for this. And then like a month later, no one's messing with that crap. They're all playing Realms again. And that's pretty much been the story of D&D since, I'm going to say 87 or 88, whenever Realms was released. It was released quite a while ago. Might even have been before that. But before Realms, you had Greyhawk. And that was just what TSR had. You had Greyhawk. And then they come out with a lot of other things too, but when Realms was released, Realms become the 600-pound gorilla in the room. Probably 87. You might be right. It was before I was in the military. But yeah, Realms definitely become the 800-pound gorilla in the room. Most people dropped my beloved Greyhawk like a bad dream, is just. And I played Forgotten Realms forever too, so I can't really say much about it. It's good setting. I think it got too big over time. They just keep adding more and more stuff, and now you're kind of getting to the point where it's getting a little much, Plus, they just steal everything from every other setting too. Like the Drow, that's a Greyhawk thing. The Oriental Adventures, that's a Greyhawk thing. Pretty much almost everything in Forgotten Realms is a Greyhawk thing. Right now, I'm putting my shade on. It's the last thing to do. I'm going to use Agrax Earthshade on the blue, and that's the only thing I'm shading. I am not going to put a wash on all that white because it will look terrible. It'll just look horrible. But a wash on that blue will look good. It'll make it stand out and pop a little bit better. All right. All right. And we need to put a wash on those boots. Now, if I could paint up an army like this, I would be proud. I would be ecstatic to roll down to the comic shop and throw these guys on the table. This guy looks good. So there he is with his wash. Again, apologies for the camera. But he got his nice white pants. Right. So he just needs to dry and get his hard coat, and he is ready to go into the bin. Well, not the bin, but the display case. Oh, we've been going for an hour and a half. Almost. So, grab my phone, leave the camera off. Right? All right. Get a couple of good pictures of him. I can mail them to Brian. I shouldn't have said his name. Well, no one knows. I hate to dox my friends on my stream. So, let's see now. Know how that came out, but put him on the thing. Okay. All right. Well, it's almost midnight, and we've been doing this for an hour and a half, so I'm going to go ahead and close this stream down. It looks like almost everybody's. So I think Time Lord, if you're the one there, I appreciate. Hey, I appreciate it. So, God bless America. Keep on painting.